about new construction. You need to give us an amount.
I'm sorry, thank you. So for the infrastructure that totaled about 40 million, we got a full 40%. On the 20 million, we only got a few million dollars, $2, $3, $4 million, because the state said for calculating additions, we use the unhoused calculation. And while you have some unhoused students, here's the value of them, but the proposal that you're offering forth doesn't support us subsidizing the entire thing.
Jerry, if we did not have an overcrowded issue with our square footage being compact, we would not be eligible for anything on new construction. That would be 100% out of the taxpayer
It would be a
dollar.
good idea to check on our students to see if they live in town.
So I can reassure you, whether you believe me or not, every year I have spent more money on residency officers doing home checks every year for the last 4 years. I wouldn't be fooled to see that if a car had a New York license plate, to believe that they lived in New York City. I'm telling you.
It's like do all the ninth grade at the beginning.
Yeah, so reestablishing residency is something that we've considered. I think we're in a very unique community that many of our students may not have all the proper documentation. And to work with these individuals on a case by case, I'm going to reassure you, if they don't live here and I know about it, they're not being educated.
Yes, sir. Come right back. Yeah.
Frank, everything you identified is absolutely essential, critical. But I think you may have missed an opportunity here. For so many years, youth in our town have been clamoring for more recreational facilities. And if on the poster in the back, you can see the fields and eyesore behind us up the street. It's in terrible, terrible condition. It's unsafe. And I lift weights about once a week, sometimes twice a week. And so many people from the neighborhood, from the town, adults, walk around the track. The track is in horrible condition. But anyway, I just think that that could be turned into a tremendous athletic venue. A baseball has the contours of a great, I think that Dr. Sewell is a baseball coach, contours of a really nice baseball field, softball field. You could have the football, soccer in the middle of it, and you could have a track on the outskirts of it. And then some people also talking about a rec center, you have room for that too. So what I'm saying to you is that also is something that the town has been begging for. The youth, they've been talking about, petitions, everything. Rec center, recreation venues, so I think that should not be overlooked.
Listen, I think that came up in another one of our meetings, and I think, I'll speak for the board for a second, and hopefully this won't be my last time I see you guys. I think they're trying to be conservative, and they recognize these are big dollar numbers that we're talking about. And in the ideal world, I think they all would recognize that's an important component of this project. So I would offer to you, if you give your name to Dr. Cirillo afterward, be part of that committee. There are opportunities. Oh, I didn't know.
So for the record, again, Frank, you and I have talked about an AstroTurf. We've talked about an AstroTurf field here. We've talked about a rec center. Clearly, we've also been told that that would be 100% out of taxpayer dollars.
I know that.
So I know that before we even put a dollar figure out, there's been much concern about how much are my taxes going up. Right now, I want to reassure everyone that we are looking at renovations. We are looking at the infrastructure. We are looking at fixing what is broken, because my biggest concern at night, and I know there are people in this room that lose sleep in the winter. If God forbid the boilers go, there is no heat. This room alone has 2 air conditioner units. Only one is working. If the other one goes, I really hope it doesn't rain on graduation night. Because
I didn't say either or. I didn't say either or. I said everything you said absolutely essential.
Yeah.
But in addition to it, that's what I said.
we can have multiple questions, as Greg said. We can add a third and a fourth question. I'm afraid we might only have one shot at getting one question approved. So again, though, that's why we're going to have some audience members hopefully serve on a committee. Such items can be added.
Yes, we're back.
Hi, I'm Victoria Miscalent. I've been at the school for 4 years. I think I knew this place the best. It's fallen apart. I would deteriorate. I don't even think is the right word. And you're saying, more taxpayers, like, oh, the taxpayers should pay for it. Where's the tax money going? Because it's not going into this building. There is no ceiling in the girls' locker room. It's not even, it's like a safety problem that I don't think anyone has seen as an issue. There have been multiple
answer your questions or give you lip service that you want to hear. What I'm here to tell you wholeheartedly is, if I fix the ceiling tiles but don't fix the roof, I threw more money away. The roof has to be fixed. The roof
Who's
is,
fixing it?
because it's upwards of millions of dollars. We have a 2% cap in our schools. Understand something, hon? We have a 2% cap on our tax levy. So if our tax levy is $23 million approximately, 2% of that is $460,000. I don't think we could even fix the high school roof with $460,000. So if I put ceiling tiles, they'll do it tomorrow if I told them to. I might as well throw money out, because that's what I'd be doing. The bigger picture has to be addressed.
As far as the rec center, I have spoken to various surrounding towns, or we own it, which I go to and use their rec center. And I spoke to the rec person at length, who's been helping me with the CCAP programs, the range programs for our special needs students. The rec program should have nothing to do with the school. It needs to be a freestanding building, because the school will always have priority over that building, and it will not work. So the town needs to come up with this that we will petition for. It is not a Board of Ed responsibility to provide recreation. It is a Board of Ed responsibility to provide education and a safe school environment. Now, Dr. Cirillo has brought him up. He's right. I work in the school district, as many of you do here. We all know how the money is spent. It's spent on students, and it's spent on staffing. When you have special needs students, there's a lot of money put into those. So you have to look at the dollars and cents. He's talking about the 2% cap, which is correct. Our town can go above the 2% cap. They do not. They could, but they do not. So they're keeping the money, but yet we're building houses left and right because the town's benefiting from, but not the schools. That's where the issue is. It is not up to the Board of Ed. They only get what the town gives them. And the town is giving them the bare minimum. We have taxes as high as Saddlewood, Preston, Demers, but they give to the schools. Leonia, when their schools grow, they add on every single year. You don't see those people fighting. In fact, they fight to give more, and not only that, they see the need in a town like ours, and they allow us to participate, which is wonderful. We have to, as a community, stop looking to blame and start standing up and saying, we need to support our Board of Ed. I go to all Board of Ed meetings. Nobody ever goes. Nobody. There's a few people here that I see all the time, but otherwise, nobody does. And it doesn't take one adult. There's thousands of people in this town who all follow YouTube and watch board meetings. We need to show up. We need to stop looking to blame people. These are our kids. You all want the best for our kids. We do fundraisers. We do pajama party things. We do the Christmas thing to donate. We have the backpacks from the Elks Club. Why can't we build the infrastructure? Why does it have to be through donations? There are teachers who are online websites begging for supplies for classrooms, and they're getting them from the community, because we all work for corporations who donate. But why does it have to be through donations? We have the money. And at least the money you're approving through a referendum is monitored by the state to go strictly to the school. No one's pocket, no one else, the school.
Maria, so for the record, and I will tell you, and I hope this reassures some people in the audience, I will go on record publicly and say, I have met twice with the mayor, with the borough administrator, and with representatives from the Board of Education. There is a joint effort, I believe,
You don't want a rec center.
to rectify major concerns immediately.
A rec
Again, I don't promise anything. I will tell you wholeheartedly, conversations are more than positive thus far. Other questions?
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Lady Pagoda. I have a question. I'm not an architect, I don't know about that, but the way I see the school is and the older school is, do you think it's gonna be good idea to come with a repair and the outcome, let's say now from 10 years, it's gonna be good to do it? It's gonna be like, that we're gonna have a school for good time? Or the way the school is now, I see like, the work, you think it's gonna come out good as doing all that investment we're gonna do? To
So-
become with a good school for the long time?
So I'm going to interpret your question to mean, are we going to get a successful solution
Yes.
by renovating, or why are we considering just knocking down and starting from scratch? Is that a fair,
Yes,
right? So the answer is this.
because the way that the school seem now.
I completely understand, and this question has been asked by hundreds of people before you, and will be asked by hundreds of people after you when we go through this process. And at the end of the day, for the reasons I stated earlier to the woman behind you, new construction is very expensive. New construction being built today is candidly not as good as it was when people were building in the early 1900s. The quality of the construction is just better then. So I would offer to you that we've represented school districts for the past 30 years, and we have done an extensive amount of renovation work. And when you do renovation work in the right ways and the right areas, you have very, very successful projects. For example, if you look at the concrete block walls that surround this room, I would offer to you that there's a visual clue that they are in very good shape. And so, while we have a leaking roof, potentially, that can be fixed and could allow these walls to last another 50 years. So it's very difficult to convince a community to make this kind of investment on infrastructure. You can imagine the challenge to get a community to support knocking something down and rebuilding it. Some communities have tried with mixed results. For the most part, that's not seen as the ideal financial solution, but some districts have tried it and done that. But I think the projects that you're looking to do will enhance the things that are in need of attention now. The young lady referred to the ceilings and the bathrooms and all those things. When those renovations are complete, you will have a like new element within this facility. And it will last for well beyond any of us. And that's the reality, that's the balance associated with this kind of analysis. There have been rare occasions where we've been asked to look at a wing of a school that was deteriorating to the point it was settling or had issues, where we recommended maybe a partial knocking down, or some districts really did want to not deal with anything that was existing because they were always, well, let's leave that and work around it. And then they always, at the end of the day, they always felt like it was a bad decision, that they kept something that really wasn't ideal and they regretted it. At this point, I think in light of the years that have gone by and the needs, my interpretation is that the district wants to do something to address these things within the financial limitations they have. One of the ways around it is to take out a loan for a longer period of time, like you would to do any major capital project, take advantage of low interest rates, and in this case, a 40% subsidy, and you will. When you come into the schools, not a lot of them are sexy and glamorous, but when you walk into the school and now the heating and the air conditioning are working, that's a noticeable difference. When the bathrooms are renovated, it's a noticeable difference. When the locker rooms are renovated, it's a noticeable difference.
What about in a space one? Because we have an issue here that is like 29 kids in one classroom, and that's because we don't have enough space for those amount of students that we have. What about that? That's going to be a solution?
So the answer is yes, and the solution put forth is in the form of additions. We have classroom additions that are proposed, and it will be up to the Board of Education. Do they want to present that question to the voters as a separate question, as one question, as no question, based on the value that was identified to construct it and the minimal subsidy that the Department of Education provided?
So I think that's one of the major things in this town, besides because the school is in bad condition, is on sidewalk, like 29 students, 27 students, one classroom. I think it's not
No,
safe.
we we are very aware, and believe me, I think the expansion proposal and submission to Trenton for Lindbergh and the junior senior high school is because we know those numbers are factual. Those numbers are increasing. We have to do something about it. But if we don't build, if we don't expand, we can't address it. The problem with building and expanding, there's really a very, very, very little subsidy from the state. It's all on the taxpayers. It doesn't mean it won't be done. But we're trying to be really mindful of how much this will affect each and every one of you that live here. Jerry
What
White.
about, I was thinking ECC is relatively new school.
Yes.
What about you said when they connected something? Can we go after those architects? I mean, if
Yeah.
they made a mistake when that was constructed, because it
So
really
we
wasn't
have been in
that-
touch with the architects. They,
For the record,
are no longer,
Just
they, for the record, are no longer in business.
Well, I mean, that's sad,
They have
right?
insurance, no?
Extremely.
Yeah.
Yes,
So this is definitely gonna take more than 2 months at summer break.
absolutely.
Are the children what are we doing with the children in the meantime? They're gonna be staying
So can you speak to
Yeah.
so this is
Great question.
clearly something that's important, so, and I'll start it and I'll let Greg finish it. If this all comes to fruition in the next few months, and September 24th is here, and we vote, and there's a positive vote, go.
the beauty of a September referendum allows us a little bit of time to finalize drawings. Because you have to understand, right now, the drawings that have gone to the state are pretty simplistic. They were there for the purpose of the state to review, but they didn't want the district spending an extensive amount of money on professionals to develop a full set of drawings, because if the referendum is unsuccessful, well, then you have drawings that are useless. So to answer your question, what you have here is dozens of smaller projects. And because there are dozens of smaller projects, you will see a lot of activity over the summers. You will see, for example, a couple of bathrooms, up to maybe 4, they could be done in one summer. We have to coordinate the schedules, and we may need an extra week on the September end and an extra week on the June or July end to give us the maximum flexibility. But a set of restrooms can absolutely be gutted and renovated in one summer. Windows, for example, the approach we take on windows is they're done after 3 o'clock. That's a unique circumstance that we've learned, where while the contractors are still going to be paid prevailing wage, for working from 3 to 11 shift, they don't charge you time and a half. So you still get the best price. So what happens, we work with the principals, who I now know is Frank. And what we do is, we will take a grouping of 4 classrooms, and we will tell him, those teachers need to move to another area for the building for a week. And then what happens is the contractor comes in, removes those, preps the opening, puts the new windows in, and goes on to the next classroom. And every day, one teacher is displaced for a day, maybe 3 or 4, but then returns right back to their classroom as if there was nothing had happened. So there are 2 extreme examples. When you talk about a building addition, clearly that's not a 2-month project, so that would happen during the school year. Fortunately for us, they're at the ends of the building, so you would have areas fenced off for construction only. Construction would happen, and they would break through to the new school over a break or over summer. So each of these projects, you might have multiple projects going on at one time, because we might bid them to multiple contractors to get the best price. But that's kind of a snapshot of what you could expect during a summer, during the school year, as it relates to a simplistic project versus a more complex addition. Does that answer your question? Do you want to add anything?
No, I want to keep it.
Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Earl and I have had this conversation, what other subsidies or grants are out there so the community doesn't get the brunt of this?
I'm sorry, I missed it. What other grants?
Any other subsidies and/or grants available to us?
So, the only one I know of right now, this is the biggest one. The Department of Education's Debt Service Aid Program has been in place since 2000, and many districts have taken advantage of it. There are other grant programs out there, but they're more focused and specialized. So, for example, in the last election, this past November, there was approximately $360 million approved through the election process that was geared towards security and towards pre-kindergarten programs. while it was voted upon, no decision has been made onto criteria, how to distribute, nothing. So as you can appreciate, hopefully no one works for the state in the audience. The state moves at a different rate than most of us in normal day. And so it's possible we won't hear about that program for another year or two. Just don't know. So that's the only one I know of recently. There are other rebate programs. So for example, when we do
rebate with,
yeah.
with the heat and or lighting.
Yeah, so when we reach certain efficiencies in heating system, right, you have an antiquated system now. It's an old system, original to the building. When we replace it with a high energy system, there are going to be some programs that we might be able to get some grants from. The Board of Public Utilities has a lot of programs that are geared towards these smaller projects. So we will be looking at those periodically, but there's nothing really large out there that you can say, other than the one we're taking advantage of, that you could say are going to cure all the ills that you're encountering, unfortunately. But we continue to keep our eyes out, and whenever there's something that we believe our clients can take advantage of, we're the first to bring it up and to present it. And it's a moving target because things come and go, and you have to be prepared when it comes because they have deadlines, and sometimes they'll initiate a program, but they won't retroactively do it. And, how long do you wait for the program to come to life before you realize, well, we have a need, let's do it, then to only come to find out that you've spent money on it, you're done, and now they've instituted the program, and you say, well, we just did it, how about reimbursing us? And they say, no, we don't do retroactive reimbursement. So it's dealing with the state, but to answer your question, that's one or two that come to mind, but we're constantly keeping our eye out for others. Yes, ma'am?
Me again?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to get back, whoever decided on the 60 million initially, okay?
I'm sorry?
Whoever, I don't know who decided that it was $60 million that we were going to spend, but that's what.
Well, let me just clarify for you. No one has decided that you're spending 60 million
No,
yet.
but I mean,
That will be on you as the community.
Right, but that's the number that was put out, 60
That
million.
is a number that when you add up the 55 projects that we identified, that's the total of those. So I'll give you an analogy if I may. That's like my wife and daughter taking 10 dresses up to the cash register, each for $100, and thinking they're going to spend $1,000 on dresses. I say to them, that's not going to happen, we need to choose. So we were just asked to identify the long list of projects that we want to contemplate, and then between the Board of Education and the community, you will support some, none, all of those. So the 60 million is not a given yet.
But that was just a general figure to begin with.
Correct.
But now,
It's a budget.
the 40, if I heard this right, maybe I came in too late, 40% of that money was approved by the state to give us 40%. They would pay 40% of the 40 million?
Yes, let me clarify. The 60 million is broken up into 40 and 20 for purposes of round numbers.
Right.
40 million represents all of the infrastructure stuff, the bathrooms, the ceilings, the mechanical systems, and approximately 20 million represents the addition. 3-story addition at Lindbergh, the gym, the couple of classrooms at the high school, and the lake. 40% of the 40 million was approved by the Department of Education. So there is plus or minus $16 million
I was going to say $16 million.
that they're going to contribute towards those projects, and they're going to contribute, what's the number, 3? Approximately $3 million towards the $20 million additions if these are presented to the voters, and if you say yes. This is all incumbent upon the voters saying yes, otherwise the state just takes back the commitment.
Right, so that means we have to come up with the $3 million, $41 million.
You say so, I didn't do the math.
Melanie, so that's why we're here. We don't have to come up with anything. We can come up with, Melanie, exactly right, which is why we're here. We want to hear what the concerns are, and we hear them. We hear that the money is a concern. It's very possible that this could be broken up into 2 questions or 3 questions.
I think, yeah.
Listen, that's why we're here.
I wouldn't lump it together, because nobody
Thank
knows
you.
what's going on.
I might put you on the committee.
Excuse me?
I might put you on the committee. But the reality is, this is probably not a 1-question referendum.
That's what you have to.
I don't live here. I work here. This is probably not a 1-question referendum.
I still don't know why the state is imposing a union.
You're gonna take a ride to Trenton with me, we'll figure it out.
Who were they protecting?
I can't answer
I
that.
think it's ridiculous. So we could hire a non-union contractor.
We're gonna talk tomorrow, you and I. Sorry, Melanie.
All right, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Nick Villano. I was used to be a student here. I've been here since preschool till I graduated here. And Alex Cirillo said that there was no heat. There was no heat for like many years, like 12 years. When I was in fourth grade, at one time I had to wear a coat in one classroom in Lindbergh. And now I want to question, if this happened, this renovation, I do understand what the problem is, but you should have done it sooner rather than later. You could have resolved this years ago, not now. And I believe that not just the town, not just this Board of Ed, but the whole school, the whole town have missed money management, in my opinion. And one question is, how's it going to benefit people who does not have kids to go to school?
So it's a
How's
great,
it
Nick, it's a great question. Thanks for being here, buddy. What I'm gonna tell you is what I told my mom and dad, who don't have kids in school anymore, who live in Weehawken and had 3 referendums in the last 4 years that were all approved. By way of approving referendums and improving your schools, it's a reciprocal process that your home value increases. Again, the more you put into something, the more you get out of it. My parents could have voted no. I think they voted yes. I hope they voted yes. But I know their home value continues to rise because the school continues to improve. It's reciprocal. If you have better schools, if you have better facilities, people want to move here. People want to pay more money to come here. It's one hand washes the other. Okay? I can't change what we didn't do 5, 10, 20 years ago.
I know this.
It's okay, don't worry. I'm still mad at you, you didn't give me the broccoli rabe that night. The reality is, we're trying to fix it now. So if we work together, we'll get it done.
Good.
Guys, thank you for being here. Again, one more question, I think.
Sorry, I mean to impose on I have friends that work in this district, that are teachers, staff, custodians. You have to pay all this money back in X amount of time, right? Say they say you have to pay back in 6, 7 years, whatever.
Well, what money? I'm sorry, Brandon, I'm not sure.
If
So if we borrow like a loan,
This is like a mortgage. And that's what the financial advisors are evaluating that we presented at the board meeting.
Correct.
This is going to not be paid back in a year. So don't think that the 40 million local share has to be paid back in a year, which is a huge amount. Don't go home and calculate 40 million divided by 12 months. Holy crap, right? That's what you're going to say. This is a 20 or 25 year mortgage essentially that you're taking to pay this back. So the number is not what you think it's going to be.
oh, hold on, let's hear it, Doug.
My thing is this, okay? For pretty much the teachers, faculty here, who are here to support this too. If you have to pay back all this stuff, right, if you borrow, whatever percentage you're due back to pay X amount of time, does that money come out of your yearly school budget now to pay back? How do you go about paying that back? And is there going to be any backlash on teachers and staff with their salaries and contracts?
Absolutely not.
No, they're two separate items in the budget. So the district has an operating budget of X dollars. That budget can only go up 2%. That budget is covered by local tax levy, and that's where salaries, health insurance, subsidies for lunches, books, all the things you would expect a school to run, right? Maintenance costs, facilities, people, all those things. When you get a referendum like this passed, the district now goes and borrows that money. They're completely separate. They're a completely separate line item in the budget, and that money is borrowed from the bank. They get the lump sum number, just like they do, and it appears on the paperwork that this is a separate line item because in 20 years when it's done being paid off, it's zero. where the operating budget continues on year after year after year. So the answer is that borrowing this money and paying it back is completely separate from the operating budget, has zero impact. And someone alluded to that earlier, it might have been this nice woman right here, that the construction money is used to pay for construction projects. It can't be used to cover salaries, it can't be used to cover anything that was not voted upon by the voters. And if there's a few dollars left over because the projects were below budget, that either gets returned to the taxpayers, or maybe they do a small project that snuck through and we didn't get it done and we replaced a few more lights or something like that. But to make it crystal clear, the items financially are completely separate. It's like you make a salary, you cover your mortgage, you cover your taxes, you cover food, and now you refinance your home and you get a lump sum. You take that, you write it out to the contractor who's doing the work, and then you pay it back by using the proceeds that are the additional taxes that everyone is concerned about, which rightfully so. So they're mutually exclusive, they're completely separate from one another, and there's no negative impact at all on the operating budget, salaries, or any of those things.
Last thing real quick. You figured into the extensions and things built like that. Was it taken into calculation, population growth down the road, or you're just worried about right now? As we know in this town, okay, duplexes are going up like crazy, and the rate of people coming into this town with duplexes too are rising tremendously. And if we do these extensions and we vote yes, how do we know within the next 15 years, we're not going to come back to this again and say, well, we got to build another 3 stories on top of what we're doing?
So Brandon, that's a very good point. And
this is for me, and I don't care if it takes offense to it, but nobody on the town council has the balls to stop.
Brandon, we have children here.
I'm
Brandon,
sorry,
relax.
they don't have the guts to go and stop or put a halt to these duplexes until the rate of this town growth catches up to where it needs to be for everything to be left.
So Brandon, to answer your question really quick, I promise. Yes, we have to submit with these applications something called a demographic study. This firm did not do it. Whitewall Associates, Joe Richardson did it. They have to be in touch with the building department. They have to find out how many buildings are being built annually. They have to do a pre-birth analysis. Believe it or not, I don't know how they figure it out,